My wife, 41, and I, 46, were married for 18 years when our sex life ran out of steam. We had twins that were grown and attending college. When they moved out, I thought for sure our sex life was going to get a boost. It did for a month, but then having sex anywhere in the house at any time got boring. We read online that taking a friend vacation without your spouse is a good way to miss each other and crave intimacy. Friendly flirting can also help fuel the craving your partner has for you. I was skeptical of this, but it was the first time in a while I saw my wife so excited to do something. We started making arrangements for our separate vacations. For some reason, my wife and her friends decided to go to Colorado. On their tour schedule was the town where my wife grew up. As far as I knew, my wife didn't have a very positive childhood. I was surprised she wanted to go there and without me. I decided my friends and I would go to Wyoming. I always wanted to visit Yellowstone National Park. After the tickets were bought, my wife started texting on her phone a lot. I didn't want to bug her. I was pretty sure she was just making arrangements and chatting with girls about the upcoming vacation. I texted my friends about it, of course. We just didn't have as much to say. I asked my wife for a copy of their itinerary, and she was caught off guard by my request. She said she would have to edit it because she mixed up the dates on the first draft. Once she fixed it, she gave me one of the printouts. It was a bunch of girly activities like yoga, shopping, yogurt treats, hiking, and restaurants. Well, fast forward to 3 days into our 6-day vacation. I missed her a lot. I was having fun, but suddenly 6 days felt like way too long. To make matters worse, my wife stopped responding to me. It really made me worry. I told my friends about it, and they of course told me to just relax and enjoy my time away in a new place. I did, for another day. But my wife was responding really weirdly to my texts. It was like she didn't care what I had to say, and only responded because she had to. I felt terrible, and I was worried. My wife's itinerary placed her group at a restaurant that night for dinner exactly 6 hours away from my friends and I started driving there at 1 p.m., so I'd get there by 7. When I got there, I found all of my wife's friends. They were shocked to see me. I asked them where my wife was, and they told me the worst news ever. She left them to meet up with someone else. I collapsed onto one of the chairs by their table, and they offered me even more information. They said she'd been on her phone until this morning, when she left before anyone woke up. She only texted them to say she wouldn't be back until late. I asked if she said anything else about who she was meeting or where she was going. Finally, one of her friends gave me a tiny piece of paper. She said it was for safety reasons because my wife didn't want to go somewhere without someone knowing. It was an address. This friend added that my wife didn't want her to tell anyone, especially not me, where she was going, and this was only if she didn't come back in time for the flight home. Seeing as I showed up unexpectedly and concerned, this friend was persuaded to tell me the truth. I thanked her and ran out to my car. She caught up to me and asked if she could tag along. I agreed. I needed someone else to balance out my panic. Her name was Jade, and she told me about her family, hobbies, and work. It was a great distraction, but as soon as we got to the address, I was worried again. It was someone's house. There weren't any cars in the driveway, but it was only 8 p.m. Just before 9 p.m., a car pulled into the driveway. A man got out of the driver's seat, and my wife got out of the passenger seat. I got out, followed by Jade, and called out, "Hey, honey." She jumped and turned to see me. Her mouth was hanging open, and she was infuriated. She immediately asked what I was doing there and why I was with Jade. I told her she came with me for emotional support because I wasn't sure what I was going to find. I looked at the man I had never seen before and asked who he was. He boldly said he was my wife's lifelong friend and new lover. I punched him in the face. My wife screamed and got closer to him. She yelled that he didn't know we were married. I asked her whose fault that was. He didn't know because she didn't want him to know. I asked if she planned for this the whole time, and she refused to answer me, even having the nerve to say I shouldn't be there. She looked at Jade and blamed her for being a snitch. I stepped in and said she only told me because she shared my concern, and I drove 6 hours to find her. This trip was supposed to renew our intimacy and give my wife a chance to miss me as she thought fondly of us. But instead, she used this time to meet up with a man from her past. I told her she wasn't welcome back at her home, and we were over. I trusted her to remain loyal and use this time to benefit our relationship, and she chose to destroy it. I couldn't believe it. After all this ranting, her bold lover started cursing at Jade and I, demanding we leave. He encouraged her to get in the house. She made eye contact with me for no more than 4 seconds before saying she was sorry and following him into the house. 4 seconds was all the deliberation it took for my wife to leave me standing in another man's yard. 4 seconds out of 18 years. I got back in the car with Jade and started driving back to the restaurant. She apologized for me having to go through all of this. She said she wanted to keep me company when I got home if that was okay, and I graciously accepted. After she got back to her car, I started the long car ride home. I called my twin sons and guy friends to tell them what was going on. They were extremely sympathetic and flocked to my side for emotional support. 3 weeks after I got home, Jade was visiting me at least twice a week. I appreciated her a lot, just as much as I appreciated my sons and friends because they continued checking up with me over the phone or in person. My sons told me they could never see Mom in the same light again. They kept in touch with her over the phone, but they dedicated themselves to their college studies and didn't consider changing their lives to help her in any way. One of my wife's mutual friends told Jade that her AP dumped her after 4 months for being too clingy. That had to hurt so bad. She was used to being married for 18 years. It's no wonder she was clingy to him. She probably wanted to be assured emotionally that she made the right decision, but that only made him leave her. I wondered what she was going to do with her life now, but I didn't try very hard to find out. An entire year later, I checked my old email address and found that my wife had been sending me emails weekly that entire time. The messages ranged from extremely angry with me to completely desperate for my response and love. I was honestly relieved I didn't find these messages until a year later, because by now I was romantically involved with Jade and wasn't tempted to take my wife back after her infidelity. I hope this story encourages people not to cheat. I hope it encourages people who are going through betrayal to know it's really okay. It's not the end of the world, and life goes on. Even though my wife's world turned upside down, she still had another chance to change her ways and make herself a better woman. Wow, OP. I am so sorry you had to endure the betrayal of your lifelong partner. You came out of your comfort zone for the chance to improve your marriage, and your wife made the selfish decision to meet with another man. I am sorry your wife didn't understand how beneficial and worthwhile it would have been to rekindle the flame in your long, successful marriage. She chose to sacrifice the father of her children, the man she spent 18 years with, for a fling that only lasted 4 months. Please, people, do not do what this woman did. She probably told AP her pity story about how her sex life was boring now and added that she was about to be in town for a few days. All AP heard was that he could have sex, probably more than once, with a woman he didn't have to commit to. Who knows what he promised her at the time, but it seems like as soon as she made the jump and switched men in her life, AP proved he wouldn't provide her the stability she was accustomed to. The lesson here is not to have sex with anyone who isn't your long-term companion. Sex is intended to be a sacred expression of love and commitment, but when it's had with the wrong people at the wrong time, it brings trouble. The best way to spice up your love life with a long-term spouse is communication. Sexy and out of the ordinary communication. You probably know what your spouse enjoys, so focus completely on that. Become a selfless fiend for what they crave, and you'll surprise the both of you. If you aren't sure what to say, ask them about it, or just let them know you're gonna try some new pillow talk. Thank you for sharing this story. Now let's get into today's second story. Today, I'm going to tell you all about one crazy, life-changing event that happened to me. It all started when I got a phone call halfway through my workday. My wife, 27, and I, 33, were married for 6 years at this point, and she had been looking for a job for a year. She earned a small amount of money by making crafts and selling them on Etsy. I didn't want her to feel rushed or forced to get a job she hated. She'd already been through a really crappy childhood, so I only ever wanted to motivate her and make her feel safe. Our relationship seemed wonderful to me. She would get depressed sometimes, and I knew it was because of painful memories of the past. I asked her what was on her mind at least once a day, but much of the time she didn't say anything. When she did, it wasn't anything I could help with or didn't already know. So on this particular day at work, I got a phone call from the police department of the next county over. I was confused but listened as he explained that he had no choice but to arrest my wife today. Understandably, I freaked out. I asked him what the hell happened and what was going on. He said they received several calls about a woman setting a car on fire in one of the residential neighborhoods. My first thought was that there was no way it was my wife, but he verified her name and phone number and said they had possession of her car. I was absolutely mind-effed. I asked if she gave any statement, the reason for being there, or an explanation, and he said so far she was unwilling to talk to them. I asked if she was allowed to call me, and instead, he asked me to come in person to talk to her. I agreed. When I got there, they had me sit in the interview room with her. Her expression went from hardened and angry to soft and defeated. She covered her face with her hands. I asked her what the heck happened. I needed to know because I could not figure this out. She whispered that she couldn't tell me. I asked why. She said it was because we were being recorded and I wouldn't want to know. I said she was wrong. I wanted to know, and she was apparently caught red-handed, so the only thing left to do was explain herself. She sat up, revealing her reddened and depressed face. She said she was setting fire to her ex's car because he cheated on her. After I let this sink in a bit, I asked her how long ago this happened and why seek revenge now. She really didn't want to answer me anymore, but I was her husband. She was in a police station. Her options were limited. After breathing a lot and crying, she told me he cheated on her last night. I said, what? And she went on to explain that she'd been seeing him for a few months while I was at work. I could not believe what I was hearing. The cops were gonna have a ball watching this drama unfold, so I clarified that she was seeing AP behind my back, and when she found out he cheated on her last night, she decided to set his car on fire in broad daylight. After hearing my words, she looked like a shell of a woman. I told her I was ashamed to be her husband. She exposed her own affair by losing any self-control or responsibility she had left. I told her we were over and left the police station. I got a few sorry looks from some of the officers. My wife freaked out. She could only call people with permission from the cops, so the next person she called was her grandmother, who raised her. Her grandmother actually thought it was a scam call and didn't look into it any further for another 3 weeks. Then she was finally contacted and paid my wife's bail. In order to afford it, she had to take out a loan. This was just the start of my wife's consequences. After she was out of jail, she tried to call me over and over again. After receiving 15 calls in one day, I finally answered it. She begged me to hear her out and at least meet her for coffee. She said it was the least I could do after the ordeal she'd been through, and our 6-year relationship deserved one more chance of survival. I laughed a good hearty laugh. I told her our 6-year relationship was over, dead, in the past. I only kept that relationship with her in good faith that she would never go behind my back and sleep with another man. Not only did she do that, but she also jumped at criminal activity by setting his car on fire. She wailed and sobbed into the phone like it was her lifeline. I told her she made the decision to go behind my back, and anyone should know it's only a matter of time before the truth comes out. I just got lucky because her idiotic actions did the work for me. I wished her luck in whatever she tries to do next with her life. As I said that, she started screaming for me not to hang up, but I did. Her aunt contacted me 4 months later. She asked if she could bring a truck over to get my ex's belongings. I said that was fine, and she went on to explain that my ex's grandmother passed away and the house was in foreclosure. So my ex was moving in with her, and I'd finally get her crappy belongings out of my house. That sounded fine to me. I did wonder how she was holding up, but I didn't ask. By this point, I started seeing another woman and did not want to give any false hope by asking questions. I hope my story encourages everyone not to cheat on their partner. There are 2 things that helped me get through this ordeal the most. The first was exercising daily. I didn't want to do it, but I forced myself to use my muscles until I could feel the burn. It helped me to get out built-up anger and turn my attitude around for the better. I wasn't feeling down on myself. I was feeling positive and capable. The second thing I did was show myself love and care by doing what I wanted. Most of the time it was listening to music and dancing. Other times it was reading, watching TV, drawing, playing music, or going for a walk. OP, I am so sorry your wife went behind your back for months to sleep with another man. I'm sorry that you found out about her arrest for setting a car on fire. I can only imagine the shock you felt as her husband. This just goes to show that sometimes spouses cannot control or predict their partner's actions. You may think you know someone as well as you possibly can, but they could have so much pain and smothered emotion from their past that it comes out in a most unpredictable way. When this happens, please do not blame yourself. You can't possibly know or control what someone else is thinking or doing. Even more importantly, their disregard for you and the consequences they'll bring does not determine your self-worth. It simply means that they had pain and emotions they did not know how to handle or resolve. It means they made very poor decisions because of their pain and perception of things. As humans, we are all nothing more than a combination of several faculties working together, and when we let something that's ultimately meaningless affect how we behave and treat others, that's a mistake that will undoubtedly cause a ripple effect. I wish you the best of luck in life. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed listening, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, comment below with your thoughts on what happened. Take care.